The war had consumed over 1,000 planets by the time Colonel Eris Vorn was given command of the Planetary destroyer. The Supreme Knowledge Alliance had engineered this ultimate biological superweapon with a singular purpose: to grind entire star systems to dust. Eris stood on the observation deck of the Orion station, gazing out at the vastness of the Xantal galaxy. His reflection stared back at him from the reinforced glass, a gaunt face with hollow eyes that had witnessed too much death. Preparing for the 50th annihilation, Colonel, announced the cool, measured voice of Orion, the AI assistant programmed to collect and analyze data from their missions. Eris nodded, his fingers tightening around the command console. Initiate final countdown sequence. Target, Varnax system. The year was 3452 SC, after the Interstellar War. Though the war itself had never truly ended, it had merely evolved. With the Supreme Knowledge Alliance convinced that total dominance was the only path to galactic control, billions of lives had already been lost. What were a few million more in the grand scheme of things? Countdown initiated, Orion confirmed. Planetary destroyer deployment in 10 minutes. Lieutenant Malik Jha entered the command center, his uniform pristine despite the weight of their mission. The crew is ready, Colonel. All systems operational. Any resistance expected? Eris asked, though he already knew the answer. After 49 successful operations, the pattern was always the same. Terror, followed by futile attempts at evacuation. Then, silence. None detected, Malik replied. Intelligence reports suggest the Varnax system is already weakened from earlier conflicts. This should be routine. Routine. The word hung in the air between them, a terrible acknowledgement of what they had become, efficient executioners of entire worlds. 5 minutes to deployment, Orion announced. Eris gazed at the holographic display showing the Varnax system, 5 planets orbiting a dying star. Intelligence reports indicated potential rebel bases hidden among the outer planets, though evidence was circumstantial at best. The Alliance didn't require certainty anymore. Suspicion was enough to warrant extermination. 2 minutes. Malik took his position at the navigation console, his fingers hovering over the controls. Ready for final coordinates, sir. Locked on target, Eris confirmed. Release the destroyer. A low hum vibrated through the station as the docking bay doors opened. The Planetary destroyer, a sleek, obsidian vessel housing the most devastating biological weapon ever created, detached from its moorings and accelerated toward the Varnax system. Deployment successful, Orion reported, impact in 37 minutes. Eris watched the vessel's trajectory on the monitor. Its path unwavering. Once deployed, there was no recalling it, no changing course. The decision had been made long before he had given the command. He was merely following orders, as he had been trained to do since his earliest days in the Alliance military. Sir, Malik spoke softly. Dr. Kaur is requesting permission to join us on the observation deck. Eris frowned. Dr. Elena Kaur, head of the ecological research team, had a habit of witnessing each destruction, claiming it was necessary for her research on interplanetary devastation patterns. But Eris suspected her reasons were more personal, a form of penance, perhaps, for her role in developing the biological component of the destroyer. Permission granted, he replied. 30 minutes later, the three of them stood in silence as the destroyer entered the Varnax atmosphere. The weapon would spread quickly, consuming all organic matter, breaking down molecular structures, and leaving nothing but ash in its wake. The process was painfully efficient. Beginning planetary disintegration, Orion announced, initiating system-wide scan. The screens flickered with images of destruction, cities crumbling, forests withering, oceans evaporating, life extinguished in moments, reduced to elemental particles that would scatter across the void. Dr. Kaur watched, her face a mask of scientific detachment, though her eyes betrayed a deeper emotion. The spread rate is consistent with previous deployments. Total system annihilation expected within 6 hours. Eris nodded, maintaining his stoic expression. This was his duty. This was how the Alliance would finally end the war, by ensuring there was nothing left to fight for, nothing left to fight over. Colonel, Orion's voice broke through the heavy silence. I'm detecting an anomaly in the post-destruction scan of Varnax Prime. Eris straightened. What kind of anomaly? Uncertain. The telescopic array has identified what appears to be a biological signature. Impossible. Dr. Core moved closer to the display. The destroyer eliminates all organic matter down to the molecular level. Analysis confirms a living organism, Orion insisted. Located in Sector 7, coordinates 42.3 by 18.9. A chill ran down Aris's spine. In 49 previous deployments, there had never been a survivor, not a single microbe had withstood the destroyer's assault. Show me, he commanded. The main screen shifted to a magnified view of a desolate landscape, gray ash stretching to the horizon, skeletal remains of what might have been buildings. And in the center of the image, a small green speck. Magnify, Dr. Core ordered, her voice tight with disbelief. The image zoomed in, revealing what appeared to be a plant, a single flower with delicate petals, somehow thriving amidst the devastation. This is impossible, Malik whispered. Nothing survives the destroyer. Nothing. Before Eris could respond, a communication alert flashed across the screen. Incoming transmission from Alliance Command, Orion announced. The stern face of Admiral Nexus appeared on the monitor, her eyes cold as the void between stars. Colonel Vorn, our long-range sensors have detected an anomaly on Varnax Prime. Confirm your findings. Confirmed, Admiral. We've identified what appears to be a biological entity surviving post-deployment. Admiral Nexus's expression hardened. This is unacceptable. The destroyer's efficacy must remain absolute. Your new orders are to investigate and eliminate this intrusion by any means necessary. No evidence of survival can be permitted. Is that clear, Colonel? Perfectly clear, Admiral. As the transmission ended, Eris felt the weight of his new orders pressing down upon him. What had begun as routine had become something else entirely. Something that threatened to unravel the very foundation of the Alliance's military strategy. Prepare a scout vessel, he ordered Malik. I want to see this anomaly for myself. Sir. Malik hesitated. Protocol dictates remote elimination. We could simply target that sector with a concentrated burst from the orbital cannons. And risk destroying valuable intelligence, Dr. Core interjected. This is unprecedented. We need to understand how any life form could survive the destroyer before we eliminate it. Eris considered his options. Protocol indeed called for immediate elimination, but something about this situation demanded a closer look. Prepare the scout vessel, he repeated. Dr. Core, Lieutenant Xia, you'll accompany me. We'll collect samples, analyze, and then destroy as ordered. What he didn't say, what he barely acknowledged even to himself, was the curiosity burning within him. After years of dealing death from a distance, he needed to see this miracle of survival with his own eyes. The scout vessel descended through Varnax's toxic atmosphere. Buffeted by winds carrying the ash of a dead world, Eris piloted manually, preferring human control over AI assistance for this delicate mission. Beside him, Malik monitored the environmental readings while Dr. Core prepared her collection equipment. Atmosphere is highly toxic, Malik reported. Oxygen levels near zero. Radiation levels elevated. Environment suits will be required for any exterior activity. Landing zone identified, Eris announced as they approached the coordinates. Preparing for touchdown. The vessel settled onto the gray landscape with a soft thud, dust billowing around them before settling back into the eternal stillness of the dead planet. Through the viewport, they could see nothing but desolation stretching to the horizon, a world reduced to ash and memory. Life sign is approximately 200 meters east of our position, Dr. Core said, checking her scanner. Faint but steady, they donned their environment suits in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. For Eris, this moment represented a first. The first time he would walk upon the aftermath of the weapon he had deployed. the first time he would face the consequences of his actions up close. As they stepped out of the vessel, their boots sinking slightly into the gray ash, Eris felt a profound disorientation. The landscape was utterly featureless, devoid of landmarks or distinctions. Only their scanners could guide them now. This way, Dr. Kaur led, following the signal on her device. Each step left a clear imprint in the ash, perhaps the first footprints this world had seen since its destruction. As they walked, Eris noticed something odd about the ash itself. "Doctor, what's this crystalline structure in the residue?" Dr. Kaur knelt to examine it. "Interesting. The destroyer's biological agent appears to have broken down matter differently here. There's an unusual molecular reorganization occurring." "Is that significant?" Malik asked, his voice tight with tension. "Potentially. It might explain our anomaly." She stood and continued walking. "We're close now, just over this ridge." They climbed a small incline and then stopped, frozen by the sight before them. In a small depression, surrounded by nothing but gray desolation, grew a single flower. Its stem was slender, emerald green, and its petals unfurled in a deep violet hue that seemed to absorb the dim light of the dying sun overhead. The flowers swayed gently in a breeze that carried nothing but death. Yet here was life, defiant and beautiful. "Impossible," Malik whispered. Dr. Kaur moved forward slowly, her scanner extended. "Readings confirm it's organic, a flowering plant, though unlike any species in our databases." Eris approached cautiously, as if the flower might vanish if he moved too quickly. How? How could it survive the destroyer? "I don't know," Dr. Kaur admitted, her scientific certainty shaken. "The destroyer targets specific genetic markers common to all known life forms. This should not be possible." Eris knelt beside the flower, studying it through his helmet visor. It seemed so fragile, so impossibly delicate against the brutal landscape of destruction. Yet it had survived when entire civilizations had been reduced to dust. "We need to take samples," Dr. Kaur said, recovering her professional demeanor. "If this organism has developed resistance to the destroyer, the Alliance will want to modify the weapon accordingly." As she prepared her collection tools, Eris felt a strange reluctance growing within him. For 50 star systems, he had carried out his orders without question, believing in the Alliance's vision of final peace through total dominance. But now, facing this single flower, this one spark of life amid unimaginable death, doubt began to creep into his certainty. "We should eliminate it," Malik said, his hand moving to his sidearm. "Those are our orders. Collect data if necessary, but ensure nothing survives." "Not yet," Eris said sharply, surprising himself with the vehemence in his voice. "Dr. Kaur needs time for proper analysis." Dr. Kaur worked methodically, taking samples of the flower's tissue, the soil beneath it, and the air surrounding it. Each specimen was carefully sealed in sterile containers for transport back to the ship. "I've never seen cellular structures like these," she murmured, examining preliminary readings on her portable analyzer. "It's as if the plant has incorporated elements of the destroyer itself into its biology. Adaptation at an unprecedented speed." "Or it was engineered to survive," Malik suggested, the implication clear in his tone. If the flower had been created to withstand the destroyer, it meant someone had anticipated their attack, someone with advanced biological knowledge. "Either possibility is troubling," Eris acknowledged. "But if this is evidence of resistance, the Alliance needs to know." As Dr. Kaur collected her final samples, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. Malik glanced at his environmental scanner. Seismic activity increasing. The planet's crust is still settling after the destroyer's impact. "We should return to the ship." Eris decided. "Doctor, do you have what you need?" She nodded, securing her sample case. "For a preliminary analysis, yes, but I would recommend establishing a research outpost to study this phenomenon more thoroughly." Eris hesitated. Their orders were clear: investigate and eliminate. Establishing a research outpost would mean defying Admiral Nexus's direct command. Yet the scientific value of this discovery could not be overstated. "We'll discuss it once we're back aboard the scout vessel," he said diplomatically. "For now, let's—" His words were cut short by a violent tremor that knocked all three of them off balance. Malik's scanner blared an alarm. "Plasma storm approaching," he shouted over the sudden howl of wind. "Massive electromagnetic disturbance." In the distance, Eris could see it. A swirling maelstrom of energy. Purple, blue, and terrifying, sweeping across the devastated landscape toward them. Plasma storms were rare but deadly phenomena, known to appear on planets where the natural balance had been severely disrupted. "Run!" Eris commanded, helping Dr. Core to her feet. "Back to the ship." They sprinted across the ash-covered terrain, each step sending up plumes of gray dust. The storm gained on them rapidly, its outer edges already lashing at their heels with tendrils of electrical energy that interfered with their suit systems. "It's too fast," Malik called out. "We won't make it." Eris looked back at the approaching wall of energy, then at the flower still visible in the depression behind them. A decision crystallized in his mind. "Dr. Core, your sample case, give it to me." "What? Why?" "Just do it." She handed over the case containing the precious flower samples. Eris immediately thrust it into Malik's hands. "Get these samples to the ship. Dr. Core, go with him. I'll create a diversion." "Colonel, that's suicide," Malik protested. "That's an order, Lieutenant. The Alliance needs these samples. Now go." Before they could argue further, Eris turned and ran at an angle away from their escape route, firing his sidearm into the air to create electromagnetic pulses that might temporarily disrupt the storm's path. It worked. The plasma storm seemed to hesitate, its swirling mass of energy drawn toward the disruption Eris had created. He continued running, drawing the storm away from his companions, giving them precious seconds to escape. Through his suit's communication system, he heard Malik's voice. "Colonel, we've reached the ship. Where are you?" "Don't wait for me," Eris replied, his breath coming in harsh gasps as he ran. "Get those samples to safety." "We're not leaving without you." But the communication cut off as a tendril of plasma energy struck Eris from behind, sending him sprawling face first into the ash. His suit's systems flickered and died, leaving him in silence and darkness, the storm bearing down upon him. In what he believed were his final moments. Eris's thoughts turned not to the Alliance, nor to the 50 star systems he had helped destroy, but to the flower, that impossible, beautiful spark of life amidst so much death. If he died here, he would die knowing that something had survived, that destruction was not absolute. The plasma storm engulfed him, and consciousness slipped away. When Eris opened his eyes, he expected to see the void, or nothing at all. Instead, he found himself staring at the sterile ceiling of the scout vessel's medical bay. Every inch of his body ached, and the skin on his back felt raw and blistered where the plasma had struck his suit. "He's awake," came Dr. Core's voice, followed by her face appearing in his field of vision. "Colonel, can you hear me?" "How?" He managed to croak, his throat painfully dry. "Lieutenant Zaw refused to leave without you," she explained, administering a hydration injection that immediately soothed his parched tissues. He took the samples aboard, then came back with the ship itself, flying directly into the edge of the storm to retrieve you. It was remarkably brave. Eris turned his head slightly to see Malik standing nearby, his face drawn with concern. "That was foolish, Lieutenant," Eris said, his voice stronger now. "You risked the mission." "With respect, sir, the mission included all personnel," Malik replied stiffly. "And I made a judgment call that the samples were secure enough to attempt a rescue." Despite his admonishment, Eris felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you," he said simply. Then, remembering the purpose of their expedition. "The flower? The samples?" Dr. Core's expression changed, becoming more guarded. "The samples were damaged during the extraction. The electromagnetic interference from the storm affected the containment fields." Eris felt a hollow disappointment spreading through his chest. "All lost?" She hesitated, then shook her head slightly. "Not entirely. I managed to preserve some tissue samples for analysis. And she stepped aside, revealing a small containment unit positioned beside the medical bay's lighting panel. Inside, slightly wilted but unmistakably alive, was the flower itself. You brought it aboard? Eris asked, astonished. The whole plant? It was Lieutenant Jia's idea, Dr. Kaur admitted. He thought if we were going to understand its survival, we needed the entire organism, not just samples. Eris looked at Malik with new appreciation. That was good thinking, Lieutenant. Malik nodded stiffly, though a hint of pride showed in his eyes. It seemed logical, sir. And what have you learned? Eris asked, turning back to Dr. Kaur. She moved to the containment unit, adjusting the environmental controls slightly. Preliminary analysis suggests this isn't simply a plant that survived the destroyer, it's a plant that evolved because of it. The destroyer's biological agent didn't kill it, it transformed it. Transformed? How? The agent targets specific genetic markers, breaking down organic matter at the molecular level. She explained. But in this case, instead of destruction, it triggered an adaptive response. The flower appears to have incorporated the agent into its own genetic structure, using it as a catalyst for rapid evolution. Eris struggled to sit up, ignoring the pain that flared across his back. Is that even possible? Theoretically, no. But the evidence is right here. She gestured to the flower. This suggests that life finds ways to adapt, even to our most devastating weapons. It raises profound questions about the efficacy of the destroyer as a long-term strategy. The implications were staggering. If life could adapt to the destroyer, then the Alliance's ultimate weapon, the cornerstone of their military dominance, might eventually become obsolete. We need to report this to Alliance Command, Malik said, his expression troubled. Admiral Nexus needs to know. Eris stared at the flower, its violet petals now seeming not just beautiful, but revolutionary. A silent challenge to everything the Alliance stood for. And what do you think will happen when we report it? They'll order its immediate destruction and modify the destroyer to ensure nothing survives next time. Those are our orders, Malik reminded him. Investigate and eliminate. And since when did we become executioners instead of explorers? Eris asked quietly. When did the Alliance decide that total annihilation was preferable to understanding? A heavy silence fell over the medical bay. Dr. Kaur busied herself with adjusting Eris's medication, avoiding his gaze. Malik stood rigidly, his internal conflict evident in the tightness of his jaw. Sir, Orion's voice came through the ship's communication system. Alliance Command is requesting a status update. They're detecting our presence in the Varnak system and demanding a report on the anomaly. The moment of decision had arrived sooner than Eris had anticipated. He looked from Dr. Kaur to Malik, then back to the flower. Resilient, adaptive, alive against all odds. Tell them, he began, then paused, weighing his next words carefully. Tell them the anomaly was a sensor malfunction. The planet is completely sterile, as expected. We're conducting final scans before returning to base. Malik's eyes widened. Colonel, that's a direct violation of... I know exactly what it is, Lieutenant. Eris cut him off sharply. The question is, can you live with it? Dr. Kaur stepped forward. Colonel, if I may. This discovery could revolutionize our understanding of biological adaptation. It could lead to new medical treatments, terraforming techniques, ways to restore worlds rather than destroy them. Or it could lead to more efficient weapons. Malik countered, what if the Alliance uses this to create an even deadlier version of the destroyer? Eris closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 50 annihilated star systems pressing down upon him. For years, he had followed orders without question, believing in the Alliance's vision of peace through dominance. But staring into the abyss of destruction for so long had shown him only one truth. There would always be another enemy, another threat, another reason to deploy the destroyer. Unless someone chose a different path. Message sent, Colonel, Orion reported. Alliance Command acknowledges and expects our return within 48 hours. Thank you. Orion. Eris opened his eyes, his decision made. Dr. Core, I want you to continue your analysis of the flower. Document everything, but keep your findings off the main database for now. And what about our return to base? Malik asked, his tone carefully neutral. We'll return as ordered, Eris assured him, but the flower stays with us, hidden. If either of you cannot accept that decision, I understand, and I won't hold it against you. Dr. Core straightened, her scientific curiosity overriding her military discipline. I'll need better equipment than what we have aboard this scout vessel, and more time. You'll have both, Eris promised. Lieutenant? Malik was silent for a long moment, his gaze moving from Eris to the flower and back again. Finally, he gave a single, sharp nod. The Alliance taught us to follow orders without question, but they also taught us to protect knowledge at all costs. This, he gestured to the flower, this is knowledge worth protecting. Relief washed over Eris. He wouldn't be facing this challenge alone. Then we're agreed. For now, we keep this discovery between us. When the time is right, when we understand what we're dealing with, then we'll decide our next move. The journey back to Orion Station was tense but uneventful. The flower, carefully hidden in a modified storage container designed to mask its biological signature, remained their secret. Dr. Core worked tirelessly, analyzing its unique properties, while Malik ensured their communications with Alliance Command revealed nothing of their true discovery. Eris, still recovering from his injuries, spent hours watching the flower through the container's viewport. Sometimes, he imagined it watching him in return, a silent witness to his transformation from an instrument of destruction to a protector of life. Upon their return to Orion Station, Admiral Nexus demanded a full debriefing. Eris stood before her holographic projection, his back straight despite the pain of his healing wounds, and lied with the conviction of a man who had glimpsed a greater truth. The anomaly was indeed a sensor malfunction. Admiral, our investigation confirmed complete sterilization of the Varnak system. The destroyer performed as expected. Admiral Nexus studied him with cold eyes that seemed to pierce through his deception. Your delayed return and injuries suggest complications, Colonel. A plasma storm, Admiral. Unexpected but not unusual on worlds where the ecological balance has been disrupted. Lieutenant Za showed exceptional piloting skills in extracting us safely. She seemed satisfied with this explanation, or at least unwilling to pursue it further. Very well, prepare for your next deployment. The Cygnus system has shown signs of rebel activity. The Supreme Knowledge Alliance has determined it must be cleansed. Eris felt a chill run through him at the casual order for another annihilation. With respect, Admiral, my team requires maintenance time after the plasma storm encounter. Our equipment was damaged, and my injuries need proper treatment. You have 72 hours, Colonel, not a minute more. As the holographic projection faded, Eris exchanged glances with Malik and Dr. Core, who had been standing silently at the back of the room. The unspoken question hung between them. How many more worlds would they be ordered to destroy? That night, alone in his quarters, Eris made a decision that would alter the course of his life and potentially the future of the galaxy. He accessed his secure terminal and began composing a message to a select group of scientists and military officers throughout the Alliance, people who, like him, might have begun to question the path of total destruction. I have discovered evidence that life adapts, even to our most devastating weapons, he wrote. The implications challenge everything we have been told about the necessity of annihilation. If you seek a different path forward, respond with the phrase, life finds a way. He hesitated before sending, knowing that this single action could be considered high treason, but the image of the violet flower, thriving amidst ash and desolation, strengthened his resolve. He pressed send, then deleted all traces of the message from his terminal. 3 days later, as they prepared for deployment to the Cygnus system, Eris received the first response. Life finds a way. Then another, and another. By the time they were ready to depart, 17 individuals had responded: scientists, officers, engineers, all harboring the same doubts, the same desire for an alternative to endless destruction. Dr. Kaur had made significant progress in understanding the flower's unique properties. It's not just that it survived, she explained during a secure briefing in Eris's quarters. It's actively transforming the environment around it. The soil samples we collected show molecular restructuring, the beginning stages of terraforming. You're saying this single flower could eventually restore an entire planet? Malik asked, incredulous. Given enough time, yes, it's producing spores with the same adaptive properties. In essence, it's seeding the rebirth of an entire ecosystem. Eris stared at the holographic representation of the flower's DNA structure floating above Dr. Kaur's portable projector. Then we're not just preserving a curiosity, we're protecting the future of a world we destroyed. Potentially the futures of many worlds. Dr. Kaur corrected him. If we can understand and replicate this process, we could offer the Alliance an alternative to the Destroyer, a way to transform hostile environments without eliminating all life. Or, Malik suggested quietly, a way to restore what we've already destroyed. The weight of 50 annihilated star systems pressed down upon Eris once more, but this time accompanied by a flicker of hope. We need more time, he decided. The deployment to Cygnus must be delayed. The Admiral won't accept further delays, Malik warned. Then we give her something else, a modified mission plan that includes preliminary environmental scanning. We tell her we've developed a more efficient deployment strategy that will ensure complete elimination of resistance. Dr. Kaur nodded slowly. That might work. And while conducting these scans, we could actually be seeding Varnax with more of these adaptive plants, accelerating the regeneration process. It's a dangerous game, Malik cautioned. If the Alliance discovers what we're doing, then we'll face the consequences, Eris said firmly. But I've spent years dealing death from a distance. I won't do it anymore, not when there's an alternative. The plan proceeded more smoothly than any of them had dared to hope. Admiral Nexus, eager for more efficient destruction, approved their modified mission parameters without much scrutiny. Their network of like-minded individuals within the Alliance grew, each contributing expertise, resources, or simply protection from discovery. Over the following months, as they carried out their official duties with carefully orchestrated deception, their true work flourished in secret. The flower, which Dr. Kaur had named Renaissance in a moment of poetic inspiration, produced offspring that were cultivated in hidden laboratories throughout Alliance territory. Eris found himself transformed as well, his military precision now directed toward preservation rather than destruction. The nightmares that had plagued him for years, visions of worlds burning under his command, began to fade, replaced by dreams of green shoots pushing through gray ash, of life reclaiming what had been taken. 1 year after their discovery on Varnax, Eris stood on the observation deck of Orion Station, gazing out at the stars with different eyes. Beside him, Dr. Kaur monitored a secure transmission from their covert team on Varnax. You should see this, she said, her voice hushed with wonder. The screen displayed a landscape still predominantly gray, but now dotted with patches of green, thousands of Renaissance flowers spreading across the formerly dead world, their violet blooms a stark contrast to the ashen surroundings. It's working, Eris whispered. It's actually working. More than working, Dr. Kaur replied, switching to a different image. Look here. The camera zoomed in on one of the green patches, revealing not just flowers, but small, insect-like creatures moving among them. New life, evolved from the spores and adaptive biology of the Renaissance. An entire ecosystem, emerging from a single survivor. Malik commented as he joined them, his former rigidity softened by months of participation in their secret mission. The Alliance would never believe this possible. They'll have to believe it soon. Eris said, We can't keep this hidden forever, nor should we. The galaxy deserves to know there's an alternative to endless destruction. Are you suggesting we go public? Dr. Kaur asked, concern evident in her voice. The Alliance would consider it treason. Not public, not yet. Eris turned from the viewport to face his companions, no longer just colleagues but fellow revolutionaries in a quiet rebellion against annihilation. But we expand our network. We find more worlds to seed. We create evidence too compelling to ignore, too valuable to destroy. And the destroyer? Malik asked. What about our orders to deploy it to new targets? Eris's expression hardened. We continue the deception as long as necessary. We report successful deployments while actually seeding worlds with Renaissance. Eventually, when we have enough restored ecosystems, enough proof of regeneration, we present our case to the entire Alliance, not just the military command. It could take years, Dr. Kaur cautioned. It took years to develop the destroyer, Eris countered. Why should restoration require less commitment than destruction? As they discussed their plans, Orion's voice interrupted. Colonel, incoming transmission from Alliance Command. Priority Alpha. Eris exchanged glances with his companions before responding. Put it through, Orion. Admiral Nexus's holographic form materialized before them, her expression as cold and unyielding as ever. Colonel Vorn, Intelligence has identified a new rebel stronghold in the Epsilon sector. You are to deploy the destroyer immediately. No preliminary scans, no delays. Complete annihilation is required. Eris straightened, falling easily into the role he had played for so long. Understood, Admiral. We'll depart within the hour. See that you do. Her image flickered and vanished. A heavy silence fell over the observation deck. Finally, Malik spoke. Epsilon sector. That's 13 inhabited worlds. 13 worlds that won't be destroyed, Eris said firmly. Not while we have an alternative. Dr. Kaur moved to a secure terminal, already calculating. We have enough Renaissance spores to seed 2, maybe 3 worlds in that sector. The others will have to wait for a second mission. Then we focus on the most populated planets first. Eris decided. And we ensure our official reports show complete destruction while hiding the truth of what we've done. As they prepared for their mission, ostensibly of destruction, secretly of renewal, Eris found himself returning to the small laboratory where the original Renaissance flower was kept. It had grown larger over the past year, its blooms more vibrant, as if gaining strength from the knowledge of its offspring spreading throughout the galaxy. He placed his hand against the containment field, feeling the subtle energy barrier between his palm and the flower's delicate petals. You changed everything, he whispered. One impossible survivor amidst unimaginable destruction. The flower swayed slightly in the artificial breeze of the containment unit, its existence a quiet defiance of everything the Supreme Knowledge Alliance believed about power and control. Life had found a way, not just to survive, but to thrive and transform. And in that transformation, Eris had found his own rebirth, from destroyer of worlds to their secret savior, from executor of annihilation to guardian of renewal. The path ahead would be dangerous, filled with deception and the constant threat of discovery. But for the first time since he had taken command of the planetary destroyer, he felt a sense of purpose unclouded by doubt. 50 star systems had been reduced to ash under his command. But from that ash, new life would rise. A second chance for worlds thought lost forever. And perhaps a new beginning for a galaxy that had known too much destruction. As the Orion station prepared for departure to the Epsilon sector, Eris took one last look at the Renaissance flower, the tiny spark that had ignited a revolution. Whatever happened next, whether they succeeded in their ambitious plan or were discovered and punished for their treason, one truth remained unassailable. In the face of absolute destruction, life had persisted. And in that persistence lay hope for all the worlds still to come.